And welcome to this UWS presentation. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for taking a bit of time out of your evening to come and listen to us. So I'm Adam Stockley and I'm Student Recruitment Coordinator at the University of the West of Scotland. So to give a bit of background to my role, I'm primarily in England and Northern Ireland, speaking to a lot of students, visiting a lot of schools when we're not in lockdown, of course. So you'll see me at careers fairs, doing presentations much like this, and also attending the big UCAS fairs, which happen throughout the year. Also, my colleague Lisa is here as well. She's just put her camera off and is muted, so she's going to be looking after the Q&A and also the chat as well, and putting in some useful links throughout the presentation. So we are using Zoom today, and what you can do, you have two options which are available. So you have a chat option and also a Q&A option as well. So we want you to use the Q&A option throughout the presentation. Lisa is there to answer the questions, or we will leave them to the end if we can't find a suitable answer straight away. And also we'll be having a bit of interactivity. We'll be looking at some examples of personal statements. So you can use the chat to interact with us throughout the presentation. So let's begin. So this webinar will be covering how to create a positive personal statement. And this is what we'll be covering throughout the presentation. So firstly, we'll be looking at what is a personal statement, a basic structure of a personal statement. So a structure you can use to get a really good head start, the STAR method, and also some final tips and tricks to help you along the way. But before we get stuck in, I'm going to tell you a few things about UWS. So UWS has 5 campuses, 4 based in the west of Scotland, as you can imagine by the name, with the big hub city being Glasgow. So Paisley is around 10 minutes away from Glasgow. Our brand spanking new Lanarkshire campus is around 35 minutes away. Our Ayr campus, which is based on the west coast of Scotland near the lovely Ayr Beach, is around 45 minutes to Glasgow, and a smaller campus based in Dumfries near the English border, which is around an hour to an hour and a half from Glasgow. Also, we do have a London campus, but this focuses more on postgraduate degrees, so the degrees you do after you graduate and what you if you want to study further. So you can have a look and see if any take your fancy. At UWS, we have study abroad opportunities, so we have over 140 partner universities just in Europe and more further afield, with around just under 20,000 students at all of our campuses. We have excellent travel links across the UK and further afield. We have 60+ undergraduate courses, which cover a wide range of different disciplines, ranging from computing to life sciences, physical sciences, nursing, and much more. Also, we have professionally recognised programmes and practical experience options to make sure you have that employability before you graduate. Also, UWS has 100% overall student satisfaction in the courses displayed below. Also, we are in the top 600 universities in the world in the Times Higher Education, also in the top 150 young universities. So these are universities under 50 years of age, and UWS is #1 young university in Scotland. We have an award-winning student support team and an award-winning students association, or students union as it is called as well. Our Lanarkshire campus won the Sustainable Buildings that Aspire Award, as it is powered 100% by renewable energy. Also, our teacher education degree was ranked #1 in the whole of the UK in the Guardian University Guide. So we're going to be looking at what is a personal statement. And firstly, we're going to have a quick look at the UCAS application sections. So these are the sections you'll have to fill in for your UCAS form. So section 1 is your personal details, so your name, your address, so hopefully you know all of that by now. Your chosen courses, which can be up to 5 different courses, so not 5 universities, but 5 individual courses. And 4, if you're applying for any medicine, veterinary science, or dentistry courses. And this is because it has a much more intense selection process. So if you are unsuccessful at the application or at the interview, you'll have a backup ready as your 5th choice. Section 2 is a bit about your past education, your grades achieved, and employment if you have any. So this could be either work experience or a part-time job. Third is the personal statement, which we'll definitely be knowing a lot more about that, as it is the most important section. And lastly is the reference from your teacher or advisor. So make sure you are well behaved, because you want to get a fantastic reference from your teacher or advisor at school or college. So as I said, this is the most important section. So the personal statement is around 47 lines of text, around one side of A4 paper, about 12 font size. You can only have one personal statement, so make it count. So this means it has to be a generic personal statement, and it can only really be focused on one subject area, or if the course is more specific, it needs to be based around that course. So for example, if you're doing something like business and you want to apply for something like drama as well, it's very hard to make a personal statement which stands out for both. So realistically, you'll have to look at either business or drama and focus on which one you want to do the most. But don't be downhearted, and you can still apply for these courses, but the personal statement may not match the course description. So personal statements are usually around 80% academic, so about what you've done in college, what you've done outside of your school and college life, to make sure you're suitable for the course which you're applying for, and 20% personal, so a bit about yourself and what you like to get up to outside of school and college as well, because it shows you're integrated into university life and that you want to continue something maybe, or try something completely new, either a sports or society at university. Also, personal statements can be used in borderline cases. So if maybe you're a grade off the entry requirements, but you have a really strong personal statement, the university has spaces left, more than likely they will accept you on the course if you have a really strong personal statement. So it's really, really important that you do the best personal statement as you can. So here are some of the main things to include, and these are very, very obvious, but I do want to cover them very briefly. So why do you want to study the course you have chosen? What are your motivations for undertaking the course? Giving a clear understanding of the subject in your personal statement. Any relevant experience that links back to the course. So this is what I'll be stressing throughout the presentation, that you do need to make sure that everything is relevant to the course which you're applying for. You don't want to talk about something which is completely different, has nothing to do with it, because that will not reflect positively. And again, a bit about your hobbies and your interests outside of school and college. Here are some things to avoid. So you don't need to include any information that is already on your UCAS application. Don't be negative. You need to highlight your strengths. You're there to sell yourself. You're there to show how you'll be a positive asset to the university and to the course that you're going for. So you don't need to name any university you're applying for, because this will be already in your UCAS application form. And try to avoid using overly cliche words. Obviously, it's good to use passionate and fascinated every once in a while, but I've seen personal statements which just overuse a lot of these cliched words, you could say. So try and avoid them if possible. And do remember that this is personal. So do not plagiarize another personal statement. Universities and UCAS themselves have plagiarism software which can detect similar statements. So obviously statements like, I like this, I like that, that's absolutely fine. It's usually if there's big blocks of text which have been copied from past personal statements or from different types of media or books, etc. So you need to make sure that it's personal to you, because it is called a personal statement for a reason. And this will hurt your chances of getting in a place at any university. So just don't risk it. There's no need to do it. So now I'm going to go over the basic structure of a personal statement. So there's no structure which everyone uses. Everyone may do it a bit differently, but the 4 steps which I'm going to give you will give you a fantastic starting point to create a fantastic personal statement. So the 4 sections I'll be going through will be the introduction, as you probably guessed, Number 2 would be, what have you done that makes you suitable? The third section is, what else have you done? And the fourth section is the conclusion. So what I'm going to show you in the next slide is an example, and I'm going to make you point out the strengths in that phrase. But before that, for the introduction, you need to keep this section short and sweet. 1 paragraph, around 4 or 5 lines, which it works the best at the most, as it works the best, it gets straight to the point. This section is to tell the reader why you're interested in the course, provide some initial reasons for pursuing the course, and as I said, the best statements get to the point quickly. And don't use sentences like these, like I'm applying to UWS, Liverpool University, or I'm currently studying business at college, I'm currently at the City of Glasgow College. This is all included in your other sections of your UCAS application, so you don't need to include it in there, because it'll just waste a lot of space as well. So I'm going to read out this quick example. So this is a really good introduction for a personal statement. And then I'm going to give you an example of what I want you to do in the next paragraphs, which will be provided. So you can use the chat function in a few slides. So interaction with business professionals has led me to believe that today we require more and better skilled management and organizational personnel if we are to continue to compete effectively in global markets. Human resources in particular is an area I'm incredibly interested in and hope to study at university. So what I've done now is highlighted the sections or the bits where it's really, really strong and something you should include. So this person has said they are obviously incredibly interested and something they hope to study. They've given a bit of research around the human resource subject area, such as this person believes that they require better skilled management and organizational personnel to compete effectively in global markets. These are all words which will be used in a business related course. So another thing that's really good about it, it's 4 lines, it gets straight to the point. So if you can base it around 4 or 5 lines for your introduction, you'll have a fantastic, you'll have enough space to continue and enough lines to put in more of the meat of your personal statement. So second section is, what have you done that makes you suitable? So in this section of your personal statement is where you want to put a lot of detail in. Also, this is where you talk about your suitability for the course. So think of your experiences. So include what you've done in college or school to develop a further interest in the subject. And remember to always back up your examples with evidence. And this is another thing I'll be stressing through the presentation, is that you need to have evidence for your skills and for anything which you're highlighting which is relevant to the course. So if you've got good skills like problem solving skills, leadership skills, that's fantastic. But we need to know where you got them from. The person reading the personal statement doesn't know you, so you need to always back that up with sufficient evidence. If you can include a relevant topic around the course field. So for example, I did business and marketing at university, so if I was applying in 2020, this is something I will probably research around. So how companies are making TikTok a viable marketing platform, as it's around the business subject area and marketing subject area as well. So if I've read a book, if I've read an online journal, I've read a reputable news article, you can put what you found out, what you got from it, and what you learned from it as well. So you want to highlight what you've done outside your studies that's related to your course. So this includes reading books, going on trips, documentaries, guest lectures, further research into topics, something that expands your understanding and the knowledge of the subject, which is outside of your school and college life. So here's another example. So for this, I'm going to give you around 30 to 40 seconds just to read it. And then I want you to use the chat function, which is available, to basically say what the strengths are in this paragraph. So I'll give you 40 seconds, 30, 40 seconds starting from now. And if you use the chat and highlight bits where you think where it is the strongest. Okay. You don't have to reply in the chat. There's obviously no pressure. I'll give you the answers anyway, so don't worry about that. So what I found in this paragraph is that the person has done wider reading. Yep, Petra has put in the chat. So expanding research, literacy, and time management skills. So that's a really good one to highlight. So as I was saying, the person has done wider reading. They've found that they've explored the causes and effects and management of Hurricane Katrina, which is based around a geographic subject area or a geographic subject. And they found out, they told the person what they found out, and also they intend to further explore the causes and effects of the tragedy, able then to expand their research and research literacy and time management skills to prepare them for university. So this is a really good example of using wider reading. Give an example of the research which they found, what they learned from that research, and also the skills they got from that research as well. And it's all relating back to the course. So that's the main thing that you want to do, is relate back to the course and give strong examples. So this is a really good example to use. So the third section is, what else have you done? So this section, you want to show off some of your strongest skills and how they relate to the course. And you'll have transferable skills that you may not realize you already have. So transferable skills are skills you can get from anywhere, working in a part-time job, getting involved in a sports society or any clubs. You'll get skills such as team working, problem solving, leadership skills. All of these are relevant and they can be used for examples for your personal statement. And think about what skills are relevant to the course that you're doing. If it's mathematics, problem solving, if it's business and marketing, team working skills, and a lot of them do overlap, but some of them are specific to the courses as well. So think of a situation where you use these skills as it backs up your claim with strong evidence. And where do these skills come from? So give them some examples. Classroom, part-time job, work experiences. So they're the major three. And then you can provide a short section on your hobbies and interests as well. So where can you find these skills? So as some that I've already mentioned, part-time job, work placements, extracurricular activities, sports teams and volunteering can get so many skills from there, and you can use these examples in your personal statement as well. Achievements such as the Duke of Edinburgh, sporting awards, music awards, charity and community and academic awards as well. So here's an activity you can do at home. So what I'm going to do after the presentation, probably within 2 days, I'm going to email you all some worksheets which I produced, and essentially they'll give you a fantastic foundation for the personal statement, giving you a lot of examples and seeing what skills you need for the course that you're interested in. So what you do, you write down the course you're interested in studying, so mathematics, for example. Think of up to 6 skills you would need for the course, so problem solving would be one of them. And rate yourself on each skill, so 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. If your rating is 4 or 5, you have to provide an example of this in context. So for example, time management. During busy times of coursework and exam revision, I created a calendar to balance my work and social life. So that's an example of where I used time management skills. And if your rating is 3 or below, think of how you can improve that skill. So for presentation skills, you can practice in front of friends and family, or take a workshop on being more effective at presenting. And if you're feeling creative, you can create what's called a radar graph. So this can be created in Excel or any other kind of spreadsheet related programs. So just Google that, because I will be here quite a long time just to kind of explain on how to do it and give you like a little tutorial. It's easy to do, and it can just give you a visualization of the skills that you need and where you rank as well. So if you're looking all the way back to the ancient times of 2011, you can look at my skills, which I put on for myself. So I've got good time management skills, also I think team working skills, but confidence and presentation skills are very, very low. So what can you do to improve that? So not just before you go onto the course, but during your course as well, you can improve these skills. So for my confidence, I joined the Drama Society, where obviously I was performing in front of people. I got much more confident. I got rid of the stage fright. And presentation skills, for example, I did them a lot during my course. So I did business marketing. I had to do a lot of presentations for my assignments in groups as well. So what you can do is getting involved. I would never thought of doing a job like this if I didn't have the confidence or the presentation skills, of course. So it's really important to find out what skills you maybe be lacking and see where you can improve them before you come to university, but also during university as well. So here's another paragraph. So it is quite a big paragraph. So I'm going to give you around a minute just to read that and see if you can pull any strengths from this paragraph. So I'll give you a minute starting now. Okay, there's around 30 seconds left now, if you want to put anything in the chat, of course. Okay, fantastic. So we've got a couple of replies in the chat. So one is highlighting contrasting experience to the research, and that's correct, and also dedication to the sports team. So I will just go ahead and highlight the bits where I think the biggest strengths are. So this person was chosen for the Sutton Trust Summer School with a geography focus, and there they developed a range of skills, and they've listed the skills which they learned from doing that trust at with the geography focus. And yes, Adam's put into the chat evidence use of specialist equipment. Yes, so this person has, because of doing that activity, that work experience, they developed use of specialist equipment and data collection, which is relevant to the geography course, which this person wants to get involved in. And at the end, they've put that they like to get involved in football, so they never missed a training, showing their dedication to the team. And it's something they want to continue to get involved in at university. So if there's something, a sport or a society which you're joining now and you want to continue at university, it's really nice to highlight this in the personal statement. Or if there's something completely new that you want to try, you can have a sentence or two mentioning that as well. And finally, obviously, the conclusion. So this is similar length to the introduction, around 4 or 5 lines, and you want to sum up your personal statement. So do not introduce anything new into this section. And if you have a career in mind, make sure to mention it here. The introduction and conclusion can be the hardest to write. So I've given you a couple of options of what you can do. So you can write the main body first and leave these to the end, or make sure these sections are capped at 4 or 5 lines and to make sure you have more space for the bigger sections of the personal statement. So the final one here, I promise, is for the conclusion. So I'll give you around 30 seconds as a much smaller paragraph, and just let me know what the strengths are in that paragraph. Fantastic. So we've got a few replies. So thank you for getting involved there. So yes, this person is saying that they want to further their knowledge on the subject, a long-term focus on their career. So that's fantastic. So thank you very much for replying there. So this person has shown their excitement. So for me, doing a degree within the psychological sector is the most exciting thing that I can do or that I can embark on. And then they want to further their knowledge on the subject. And they believe that a degree will provide the firm basis of pursuing a career in criminal justice. Now, if you don't have a career in mind, you can say that obviously doing this degree can give you the ideas and the aspirations to find a job within the business sector or, you know, the engineering sector as well. So you can put that in as well. If you don't have a firm, obviously when I was 17, 18, I didn't know what I wanted to be after I graduated. So it's again, this is quite a short one. So I would say, again, 4 or 5 lines, but if you can sum it up in 3, that's absolutely fine as well. But here's a nice example of how to wrap it up. So we're going to go on to the STAR method. So the STAR method will give you the structure of creating some really strong examples that you can use in your personal statements. So what does it stand for? So it's situation. So think of a situation where you used a skill. Where was it? When was it? Your task. What was the task that you undertook? How long did you have to complete it? Was it in a group? Action. So this is the biggest part. So this is where you can put in what you did. And remember to use I, even if it's in a group work, because you want to highlight what you did, as it is, again, your personal statement. And finally is the result. So what was the outcome? Was it a positive result? Could anything have been done differently? So I'm going to give you a little example of how to use that. Sorry, there's a moth in my face there. So the situation, in my business studies class in college, for part of my coursework, I worked a part of a group for a presentation. So the task was a 10-minute presentation on economies of scale. I was in a group with 4 classmates. So if I was going for a business related subject, you can be specific about what the actual task was, and obviously it relates back to the business subject area. Then you got your action. So I took leadership of the group and delegated the research tasks, giving everyone a fair amount. For my research, I managed my time effectively by creating a schedule to get the work done on time. And finally, the result, the teacher was impressed by the presentation and group organization. In the end, I received a fantastic grade. So you can see that I'm using I instead of we. And also I've given examples of where I've used the leadership skills and time management skills as well. So that's just a generic example, and you can use that you can use the STAR method all the way through your personal statement. So again, I'm going to email you this a couple of days after tonight with the activity which I've prepared. So essentially, the worksheet will contain each STAR section with a brief example. You can choose up to 5 skills that you can utilize the STAR method in. Follow the structure of the STAR method. So remember the situation, the task, the action, and the result. And at the end, you'll have some strong examples that you can use for your personal statement. So here are some things to avoid. So I've given you a few things, but I'm going to give you some examples of what people have put in their personal statements and why you should avoid this. So my skills include teamwork, time management, problem solving, leadership, and more. So actually, I'll get you all involved here. So what do you think is wrong with this? If anyone wants to put it into the chat, of course. Yep, fantastic. So there's no examples there. It's just a list. So you want to make sure that you give an example with evidence for every skill which you're saying. It's great that you've got all these skills, but just listing them, it doesn't have anything to back it up with. So for the second one, as Oscar Wilde said, a dreamer is the one that only finds his way by the moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world. So what's wrong with this, or including this on your personal statement? Yep, so fantastic. Got that's absolutely correct. So essentially, don't use quotes without context. If you're going to use them, paraphrase them if it's something meaningful. But having big blocks of text is also can come up on the plagiarism software as well. And if it's not relevant to what you're talking about, what's the point of having it there? And also, that whole phrase took up nearly 2 sentences or 2 lines even. So you want to watch out for the length for that if you are going to use any sort of quotations in your personal statement. So the next one, what is wrong with this one? Yep, so put it perfectly in the chat there. So they're already on your UCAS form, so you don't need to include this. So you put in all your information from your past education, whether that's in high school for your hires or your GCSEs or your A-levels. So you don't need to include this at all because it, again, just takes up too much space, and UCAS already know it, and the university already knows it, so there's no need to include it. And the last one there, and I'm sure you can see why this is not good. And obviously, check your spelling and grammar. So obviously, I don't think anything will be this bad, but it is really important to check your spelling and grammar because it is a professional. It's a professional application because you are going for a university place. So you need to make sure that the spelling and grammar are up to scratch. So I'm going to give you some final tips and tricks. So just a few more things that you need to watch out for. So I always say don't restrict yourself by starting every sentence with I. Obviously, it's a personal statement. You're going to use I quite a lot, but it can get repetitive. If you're writing about something that does not relate to the course, do not use it. Make sure everything that you're talking about relates back to the course. Draft and redraft until you are completely happy with it. I think I had about 14 draft copies of my personal statement, and it's really good if you kind of start it and work on it each day and have a new draft every time you go onto it, and improve it every time when after each day coming up to the deadline for it to be submitted. So read your personal statement out loud to friends and family, because this makes sure that it flows well, and also having an extra pair of ears. If there's anything wrong with the personal statement, someone else can tell you, and you can obviously rectify that. So do not exaggerate, as you could be tested on your claims. So the example which I always use is that someone was going for an interview at Cambridge, and he said that he read a certain book, and when he went to the interview for it, the author of that book was actually on the panel, and he actually didn't read the book. So obviously that reflected negatively on him. Obviously, probably something like that is very rare to happen, but there are courses where you'll need to go into interviews. So you need to make sure that everything on your personal statement is not exaggerated, because you will be tested on that personal statement. And don't leave it to the last minute, as important information could be left out. So do what I said before, work on it, each week, or, if you've got a bit of a break in school or college or after school, just make sure that you do work on it, you have a good head start, and obviously get your careers advisor to look at it, get your parents or guardians to look at it to make sure that it's all up to scratch. So that's the end of the presentation, but as our open days coming up, I just wanted to see if you wanted to get involved with it. So open days, everything is going to be online, and obviously it's beneficial to come to any university open day and see what courses you're interested in, get advice around everything to do with being a student. So ours is the 31st of October, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you want to register, we do have a QR code there. So your QR code is usually pre-installed in your phone. If not, you can get hundreds off the App Store. So have live talks, insight to the programs, Q&A sessions, advice on everything, and virtual tours around our campuses as well. If you can't use the QR code, I think Lisa has put the open day registration in the chat, so you can click through to that and register. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, we do have our email on there, which is ask@uws.ac.uk. Also, if you want to create your own personalized digital prospectus, so essentially you choose the subject areas that you're interested in, and it creates a personalized prospectus just for you. We do have a QR code there, and also it will be provided in the chat as well. So once again, thank you very much for listening, and we will move on to the Q&A section. So I'll